Hello, myself Onkar Bhavan Patil, currently learning in a BTech Aeronautical Engineering from Anna Saheb Dange College of Engineering and Technology, ASTA. The topic of today's presentation is GPS, VOR, and INS under the subject of navigation guidance and control. So, starting with GPS, what is GPS? GPS is a positioning system based on a network of satellites that continuously transmit coded information. The information transmitted from the satellites can be interpreted by the receivers to precisely identify locations on Earth by measuring distances from the satellites. GPS is funded by and controlled by the US Department of Defense. The system is called Navstar. Navstar is navigation, satellite timing, and ranging. GPS is precisely identify locations on Earth by measuring distances from the satellites. So there are three components to GPS. Three main segments that relates to GPS. First one is a space segment. This the satellite space segment is the satellites orbiting the Earth and transmitting timing and ranging messages. Second one is the control segment. This segment monitors the health and position of the satellites in the space segment and transmits the correct information back up to the satellites. Third one is the user segment. The handheld or other receivers used to interpret the messages broadcast from the satellites. Coming to GPS constellation, the nominal GPS operational constellation consists of roughly 24 satellites. Each satellite has a number on your GPS screen. Newer satellites have been sent up to replace older ones. The GPS signal communicates information about the precise position of the satellite and the precise time of the signal. Each satellite orbits the Earth in about 12 hours. The satellite orbits repeat roughly the same ground track each day. Learn to identify the time of day when satellite coverage is the best in your area and plan your fieldwork accordingly. 2D and 3D positioning. You need at least 3 satellites to get a two-dimensional position and 4 satellites to get a 3D position. Since we exist in a 3 dimension, theoretically we need to get our distance from 3 satellites. The scenario above is theoretical because it supposes that we know exactly how far we are from the satellite in order to get our GPS clock in sync with the satellite clocks. We need to get data from a fourth satellite to calculate the time of set and set our GPS clock to near perfect system time. Now application of GPS. The key function of GPS to locate your position on the earth. GPS allows us to obtain, record and manipulate positions on the earth. A waypoint gives us the coordinate for a single point location. Waypoints and tracks gives us a digital record in the form of geospatial layer that we can print to a map. GPS can be used to measure distances. Tracks are a collection of points collected automatically by the unit. For example, the GPS can record track points every 10 seconds as you walk the perimeter of a field. The length of a track is calculated as the cumulative length between each track points. GPS can be used to measure areas. Just like lengths, areas can be measured using points or tracks. Points can be used to define the area of regularly shaped areas that have well-defined corners. A shape with curving edges like a circular field or a field bounded by a meandering stream will be harder to define using points that you determine in the field. Tracks are very good at capturing curving lines as you travel around those edges. The downside is that a track will follow your every move. Navigation with GPS. A route allows you to set intermediate waypoints on your path from A to B that take into account terrain, roads, or other relevant factors. The GPS will report the length of the entire route as well as the length of each of the segment between waypoints. GPS mapping. GPS data can be used to map point and line and area features in general, and on the GPS units that USDA is acquiring, there is a method to attribute data that you collect in the field. That means that you can give unique symbols and names to the data that you collect so that you can interpret it back in the office. Now let us start VOR. A very high frequency omnidirectional radio range (VOR) is a type of short range radio navigation system for aircraft, enabling aircraft with a receiving unit to determine their position and stay on course by receiving radio signals transmitted by a network of fixed ground radio beacons. It uses frequencies in the very high frequency band from 108 to 117.95 megahertz, developed in the US beginning in 1937 and developed by 1946 and deployed by 1946. VOR is the standard air navigational system in the world used by both commercial and general aviation. By 2000, there were about 3,000 VOR stations around the world, including 1,033 in the US, reduced to 967 by 2013, with more stations being decommissioned with the widespread adoption of GPS. An Omni Bearing Indicator (OBI) is the typical light airplane VOR indicator and is shown in the accompanying illustration. It consists of a knob to rotate an omni-bearing selector and the OBS scale around the outside of the instrument used to set the desired course. A course deviation indicator (CDI) is centered when the aircraft is on the selected course or gives left or right steering commands to return to the course. An ambiguity, that is to from indicator, shows whether following the selected course would take the aircraft to or away from the station. A horizontal situation indicator (HSI) is considerably more expensive and complex than a standard VOR indicator, but combines heading information with the navigation display in much more user-friendly format, approximating a simplified moving map. The next indicator in VOR is RMI, a radio magnetic indicator developed previous to the HSI, features a course arrow superimposed on a rotating card which shows the aircraft's current heading at the top of the dial. The tail of the course arrow points at the current radial from the station, and the head of the arrow points at the reciprocal 180-degree different course to the station. Now coming to the last phase of presentation, that is inertial navigation system (INS). The five basic forms of navigation are pilotage, dead reckoning, celestial navigation, radio navigation, and inertial navigation system. Now we will see INS. Inertial navigation system is a system which relies on knowing your initial position, velocity, and attitude, and thereafter measuring your attitude rates and accelerations. The operation of inertial navigation system (INS) depends upon Newton's law of classical mechanics. It is the only form of the navigation that does not rely on external references. Now, basic principle of inertial navigation. Given the ability to measure the acceleration of vehicle, it would be possible to calculate the change in velocity and position by performing successive mathematical integrations of the acceleration with respect to time. In order to navigate with respect to our inertial reference frame, it is necessary to keep track of the direction in which the accelerometer are pointing. Rotational motion of the body with respect to inertial reference frame may be sensed using gyroscopic sensors that are used to determine the orientation of the accelerometers at all times. Given this information, it is possible to resolve the acceleration into the reference frame before the integration process takes place. What does an INS consist of? An inertial navigation uses gyroscopes and accelerometers to maintain an estimate of the position, velocity, and attitude rates of the vehicle in or on which the INS is carried, which could be a land vehicle, aircraft, spacecraft, missile, surface ship, or submarine. An INS consists of the following: an IMU, that is inertial measurement unit, and an instrument support electronics, navigation computers, one or more to calculate the gravitational acceleration, which is not measured by accelerometers, and doubly. Sorry for the internet interruption. Let me begin this slide once again. So, what does an INS consist of? An inertial navigation uses gyroscopes and accelerometers to maintain an estimate of the position, velocity, and attitude rates of the vehicle in or on which the INS is carried, which could be a land vehicle, aircraft, spacecraft, missile, surface ship, or submarine. An INS consists of an IMU, that is inertial measuring unit. Instruments support electronics, navigation, computers. One or more calculate the gravitational acceleration, not measured by accelerometers, and doubly integrate the net acceleration to maintain an estimate of the position of the host vehicle. So, gimbaled inertial platform. So, what is gimbaled inertial platform? A gimbal is a rigid with a rotation bearing from isolating the inside of the frame from external rotations about the bearing axis. At least 3 gimbals are required to isolate a subsystem from host vehicle rotation about 3 axes, typically labeled roll, pitch, and yaw axis. The gimbals in an INS are mounted inside one another. Gimbals and torque servos are used to null out the rotation of the stable platform on which the inertial sensors are mounted. Strap-down inertial navigation. This concept, accelerometers mounted directly to airframe that is strapped down and measure body acceleration, horizontal vehicle acceleration, or vertical acceleration computed analytically using direction cosine matrix, that is DCM, relating body coordinated and local level navigation coordinates. DCM computed using strap down body mounted gyro outputs. Advantages of INS. It is autonomous and doesn't rely on any external aids or visibility condition. It can operate in tunnels or underwater as well as anywhere else. It is inherently well suited for integrated navigation guidance and control of the host vehicle. Its IMU measures the derivatives of the variable to be controlled, uh, that is position, velocity, and attitudes. It is immune to jamming and inherently stealthy. It neither receives nor emits detectable radiation and requires no external antenna that might be detectable by radar. Thank you.